This is the Grind to Greatness podcast, your dose of unapologetic tough love. These are your hosts, Mary Hodges and Ashley Kane.
The Grind to Greatness podcast. This is Ashley Kane. And I have Mary here with me. I was trying to impersonate the beginning. Today's topic is all about navigating the gap. That's the title. I like it. So, did you have something to say? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
I looked like I did though. So
you did.
Sorry.
You did. So this episode is about how to handle the challenges of getting where you are now to where you want to be. When we dream big, the destination can feel so far away. How do we tread the waters of the in-between?
So we've obviously talked about moving towards your vision. We've talked a lot about that. We've touched on that in almost every episode, really. And that really starts with obviously creating the vision and then setting the goals, and then learning to say no to things that aren't congruent. And then, of course, we touched on managing fear and self-doubt when they get in the way, because we all know that they will. So now we want to definitely touch on what do we do about navigating the in-between. The gap where we are now and where we want to be. When we dream that big life, we feel all this excitement, but that can really be overshadowed by a lot of overwhelm. I know that's happened to me tons of time. When you dream big and you think about some like crazy life that you want to have, and then you start to think about like all the things that have to be done to get there, it gets intimidating almost. So sometimes we let that gap really get in the way, right? So we definitely want to give you guys a lot of goodies today about how you can navigate the gap, how we all can navigate the gap, and how we can kick the in-between's ass.
Mary, the in-between is all about the grind to greatness. The life of our dreams, it should excite us. Where you're going, you're traveling, and you're just making things happen, right? But in reality, the road isn't always going to be exciting. I know I felt disappointed before, and I know how everyone has on their grind. But you have to move forward. There's things that can be done to get the little shit handled, right? They just don't post about them on Instagram and Facebook. But there's real stuff out there that happens to all of us. And why is the in-between such a challenge, Mary?
Well, we're going to talk about 4 different themes here, but I want to go back to a point you made about there's going to be parts of the grind that's not exciting. And I think that's what none of us really plan for. That's the stuff, the everyday, like checking my email, thinking about who I need to make connections with.
Prospecting.
Yeah, like doing that everyday little stuff. Like there's things I have to do every day. Even just if you think about the little stuff that has to be done behind the scenes of the podcast, like tagging the file every week to make sure when it uploads on iTunes, it says exactly what we want it to say. That's monotonous shit. That is not really exciting when you think about it. And that's the stuff we kind of forget about. So when that reality sinks in and when we're like in the grind, we get disappointed, like Ashley said, and then it's almost like, well, shit, this feels so different than how I feel when I think about what I want in the future. So I thought that was a really good point you brought up, Ashley. Bringing it back to the challenges, we're going to hit on 4 main topics. Some of those reasons we think are challenging for people is because 1, we have an expectation of instant gratification. 2, we're constantly comparing ourselves to others. 3, a lot of us use that excuse that we think it's too late. And then 4, when we're in that grind, sometimes we let money lead. And we're going to get into each of those so you guys kind of have an understanding of what we talk about. So Ashley, why don't we move into like instant gratification and talking about some of the challenges around that?
Okay, so this next topic, I'm going to do the Mary voice. It's the science segment. It's her favorite segment. It's called the pleasure principle. Oh, like Janet. All right, the driving force that actually compels us to satisfy what we want, our needs and our urges, it comes from all these complex and basic needs. We breathe, we eat, we drink versus the big house, the cars, all those things that we really dream about. When we don't get fulfillment, our psychological response is anxiety and tension. And all humans, we have this desire in one way or another. And actually, older generations have been hammered with the notion of delayed gratification. In the first episode, we talked about the script. Mary read some things that we've all been fed, like we should get good jobs so we can retire and then be happy. That's actually delayed gratification at its finest, and it's the framework of the American dream. Think about it. Most people have bought into this, and then they've just assumed that that's how life is supposed to fucking be. Now, we actually have a culture that is more focused on achieving that personal fulfillment, and technology has played a huge role in the actual expectation of instant gratification. And a lot of things in our life, they actually have to be delayed. There's no wait if we want to text a friend or if we want to find the answer to something, right? So information is at our fingertips, and waiting isn't something that we're used to anymore. And actually, studies have found that our average attention span has dropped to 8 seconds, and that's actually shorter than a goldfish. Because now we don't have to wait for anything. Mary, I know you have something to say about all of this. You're dying over there.
I know, right? Ashley was talking about the science. I was like, let's change it up a little bit. And I was over here like, oh shit, I wish that was me talking about the science because I'm a fucking science nerd. But yeah, I mean, you guys, we have touched on this a lot in our episodes about the fact that our cell phones are like an extra appendage. We have access to information. Like, I'm still mad that St. Louis, I think this is actually changing, but St. Louis doesn't have Uber Eats. And to me, that just says something about the culture here that's like, we're just behind the times. But that's me wanting to be able to get any food from anywhere delivered right to my doorstep, right? And so we definitely have a lot of these expectations, but people forget, like, why this is troublesome is that people forget when it comes to like success and building a business or going after what you want, like we gotta be patient. We have to be patient. I mean, people, when they used to start a business, they would assume that it was going to be about 7 years before they were turning a profit. Now, I think that today's type of businesses, the fact that you don't need as much capital, the fact that you don't need a storefront, there's a lot that goes into play with, I think, it being reasonable why that number should be a lot lower today for some industries. But we still have to like go through it. And I think, overnight success is total bullshit. People, and we're going to talk about comparing ourselves to others, but because we can see others' lives and we think like, oh man, they're doing this, we want it now, but we're not willing to go through that everyday monotony like we talked about earlier to get what we want. And it's a really challenging place to be. But because overnight success is total bullshit, I want to share some stories with you guys about people that did not have anything but overnight success to kind of put it into perspective about what it really takes for some people to find that success in their life. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with James Dyson. He's the founder of those really amazing high-end vacuum cleaners. He's got a personal net worth now of $5 billion. But guess what? It took him 15 years and 5,127 prototypes before he made one successful vacuum. 5,127 prototypes. Colonel Sanders started KFC at age 56. He didn't franchise it until age 62. He was rejected 1,000 times before he started KFC. Rovio, you guys, all of you know about Angry Birds. This is one of the best-selling paid apps of all time. I think it has in-app purchases. I've played it once or twice, but I never got hooked like everybody else did. They had been building games for 8 years before they made Angry Birds, and they had 51 other game apps that weren't successful. This is one of my favorites. You all know Pablo Picasso. He has about 100 masterpieces, but he has more than 50,000 works of art. So the point of us sharing that is to kind of bring it back to reality, that the lesson you get from this is that you got to get comfortable with failure. For you to be able to move towards that life you really want, you gotta do the hard stuff. You gotta be in the grind, and you gotta get out there and try and fail and rework and learn and try again and figure it out until you get there. I mean, I think that gap is where people fall off. That's the place. We all have amazing dreams, but it's that gap where people like fall through the cracks. Ashley, you got anything to say about all that?
So helping people start businesses, I've seen it. The excitement's there. You're like, oh, yes, I got the first step done. And then a few weeks in, those mundane things are coming up. The things that we talked about earlier that you don't want to do. And then the instant gratification comes into play. This is like, to me, it's almost a hamster wheel. And the overnight success thing, it plays right into it because you see, okay, like I look at Eric Thomas. Oh my God, I would love to be where he's at right now. But he didn't just overnight, he's a YouTube success. I mean, we've talked about him before. He ate out of trash cans and, he didn't even know he wanted to be a public speaker at that time, probably. I don't think, at least from all the videos I've watched. But he just started making videos in his garage and making his t-shirts and selling them out of his garage. People are like, where's your office? Don't you have any structure? And he's like, I'm more worried about the grind than I am structure. He's like, let's just keep making videos, putting them out there. He's just talking to a camera and we're just sitting there. I mean, think about what a challenge that is. So when it all comes down to those factors that have already happened, then you start to fail. And you feel super uncomfortable. No one feels good in that space. And we hold this negative light to failure. And I've seen it in videos over and over again. You fail and then you get up, and it's a learning experience. I know you wanted to say something about this.
Yeah, I think we need to change the story about failure. If you ask people what one of their biggest fears is, it's the fear of failure. It's like, where the hell did we get this idea that messing up was such a horrible thing? Being perfect was the end goal. I've never, and I had this myself. These were my fears I've had my own self. So I did not learn though until I was in business. I was surrounded by people that had started businesses. I started listening to people and reading biographies about people that started business. Overall, just like we got to embrace failure because failure is the quickest way to learn. Right. So I think we need to change the story from failure meaning you're not good enough at something to failure being a learning opportunity. Do you remember when we talked about the competence confidence loop? Well, sometimes, I do live videos every week on Facebook for, letting people know about our podcast episode. I talked about this today on Facebook, but when I started doing those, I wanted it to sound perfect. I wanted to make sure I touched on every point. Now I just get on there and I talk because once you start doing something over and over again, it's that being consistent, trying it, getting out there, pushing the edge, pushing that zone of uncomfortability. And you develop confidence when you do that. But the only way that you develop confidence is when you keep trying. So when you are faced with failure, the first time you set out, and it doesn't have to just be entrepreneurship. A lot of our listeners are people that might have a job and maybe you want to go after that promotion, or maybe you're in or maybe you're in sales and you got to make calls to people, and maybe you're in a meeting and you want to say something and you hold back. Whatever it is for you. Maybe you're in sports. I don't know. Whatever it is you guys are doing. How is it that you can elevate yourself? How can you elevate where you are to where you want to be? And that a lot of that's being consistent. And that's the hardest part for people, is that consistency. Because that first sign of failure, a lot of people are hitting the dust after that. We really don't want to see that from people. We really want to see people going out there and trying and keep going after it. And I think that kind of brings us to a good transition to start talking about something else that we know. Oh my God, we know plagues everyone, me and Ashley and everyone listening to the show. But this is about constantly comparing yourself to others. Ashley is like, her blood's boiling over here, so I better let her get some airtime.
Mary, this topic, it does so many things to me. It hits home, for one. I'm going to be honest. It irks. It definitely irks.
I love that word.
Because I see it.
It irks so bad.
I see the comparison and people do it to each other. Mm-hmm. Okay, like the LeBron and MJ, like, why do you have to compare them? They're not the same human beings. It's a different era. They're both phenomenal players. Why do you have to compare them? LeBron is his own man. Mike is his own man. I don't fucking get it. Like, no one's going to agree. People are going to have their own opinion. It's sports. We already know that. A lot of people out there are freaking Stephen A's. So, you know, I love Stephen A, but anyways, so the comparison thing, you know, it happens in social media every day. People compare singers all the time. I mean, the comparison thing really irks me because they are not that person. Here's a quote from Jack Canfield. I generally find that comparison is the fast track to unhappiness. And I know that's happened to me before. This is a whole topic on its own. The pressure starts as soon as we're out of the womb, okay? Look pretty, weigh this much, go to school, get a job, blah, 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 right? It doesn't matter what it is. It's something out there that people are going to tell you, this is how you should do it. And you see those people on social media and they're doing everything. They're like in France and they're, you know, having dinner with the in-laws on this beautiful patio and the sunsets in the back, right? They're doing all this stuff. And you just want to like gag yourself. They got the best clothes. Their body is popping. But that comparison can damage your self-esteem more than I think anyone would ever know. And it leads to issues from following through with things, you know, getting defensive, taking things personally. And it leads to so many things that we don't even know that we're doing them. And if we're lucky, we have someone in our life that will tell us when we're doing these kind of things, or maybe we'll just become self-aware and maybe we'll read something or listen to a podcast and we start to become self-aware. The comparison thing, I just think if we all try to just break ourselves from it, and I know you're not going to change you can't change other people's behaviors, but I ain't gonna play with people. I'm not going to get on those posts with the MJ and the LeBron comparison. So I'm not.
I think the biggest harm, though, I mean, yeah, like when you say people are comparing LeBron and Michael Jordan, to me, that's just like, well, you all are sitting here talking about two of the greatest. Because, you know, regardless of what you think, two people that are so fucking superior at what they do, while y'all are sitting at home doing God knows what, not successful. That's just the truth. Like, you're literally hating on, it doesn't matter which camp you're in, you're hating on another person that's way freaking more successful than you've ever been. So to me, that's why I don't get that comparison thing. But in terms of like where it really hurts us when we're in that gap, when we're trying to navigate the gap, is how it makes us feel about ourselves. So a lot of times when we compare ourselves to others, what that does is it almost makes us look inward on like, am I enough? Am I not adequate because I'm not where this person is? Or it doesn't seem like my life is as good or exciting as this person. So it really makes us look inwards. You know, I'll give my own personal story about this. I had a friend, I'm going to shout him out. His name is Ricky. And we went to law school together. I would see on Facebook, he started his own firm immediately after law school. He did not even go get any formal training. He just went. Like, that's how much confidence this person has. He went and he started his own firm with a friend. And let me tell you, when I talk about people crushing at life, he is crushing at life in every way. Having a successful business, doing so much charitable work. He goes to Haiti a couple times a year. He has a nice life. He has a beautiful family, beautiful wife, 2 beautiful girls. And for some people, I would kind of look at that and I would almost, in the beginning, when I was maybe a little less mature or aware about this, I'd be like, dang, Ricky's crushing it. Like, I must not be doing what I should be doing. We have a tendency to do that. But instead, I began to look at him as motivation. for motivation. And he was really, without even us having a conversation about it, this was just me observing on Facebook. I used him as motivation to start my own firm. The day I made that announcement on Facebook, guess who was the first person to reach out to me in a private message and say, anything you need, I got you. It was him. The funny thing was that he didn't even know. I told him, I said, you are one of the reasons why I kind of had a confidence about myself. I felt like I'm seeing him do this thing. Why can't I? And in the beginning, I looked inward and thought like, well, damn, I must not be doing everything I could be doing because look where his life is and look where mine is. But no, don't do that because we're all unique. Like Ashley said, we're all different people. Instead, if you see somebody out there that appears to be having a life that you want or that a life that's desirable, use them as motivation. How about you reach out to them and say, hey, I'd love to take you to coffee and pick your brain and see, what kind of advice you would have for me. So instead of doing that, reach out to that person. Tell them you admire them. Because the thing is that comparisons are unfair. I don't know. I mean, I'm also seeing only what I see on social media. We're just seeing that phase of a person's life. And then when we compare our weaknesses to like that person's like ultimate strengths, where we just kind of ignore our own strengths. And then there's really nothing to gain from the comparison to where you're, feeling bad about yourself. Really use it as motivation. It's also a form of insecurity in a way, like that we feel like we're unworthy. And my God, in this age of like Instagram models, people are actually willing to go under the knife and have a doctor cut open their ass and stuff shit in there to make it look bigger. I mean, that's where people have gone mentally in the insecurity world, feeling like they're not enough. And, to each their own. If people do that and they think that makes them happy, that's great. But to me, I think as a society, it's really sad to see that people are so hell-bent on feeling not enough, that they got to go do these extra things to their bodies, to whatever the case may be, to just feel like they're fitting in on some social status. So compare yourself to you. Stop comparing yourself to others. Are you making progress? Are you growing? Because your story is not the same as everybody else's story. We all have our own unique path. When Ricky started his own law firm, he had a different path than I did. And I had to realize that because, like I said, in the beginning, I let that kind of make me feel inadequate. Like, shit, what am I doing? So we got to stop that comparison. I know it's hard with social media, but start comparing just understand that you don't know that person's whole story. You don't have their story, and you need to just start comparing yourself to you. Or did you do better than you did yesterday? And if you didn't, are you at least aware of that and know that you're going to try to do better tomorrow?
I feel like that's all we have to say. No, I'm joking. But that
show's over.
No, that was dope because that's exactly, I felt that before. Like having to try to compare yourself to, injections and boobs. You can't compare yourself to that because it's apples and oranges. So, and I'm just using that as an example, not bashing people that do that. But if you compare yourself to that and you know that, well, you don't have those, so it'd be kind of unfair. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. To compare yourself to those, Instagram models or whatever you want to call them.
Hey, I might get some double G's one day.
Hey, I'm
not like saying that I'm above that or anything.
Right.
I'm just saying it's kind of a general like theme that for a lot of people, it's that inadequacy. And we want you guys are all worthy. You guys are all enough. That's the thing. You're enough as you are. So that's kind of the point we're honing in with that.
You are enough. You are. And sometimes it's hard to feel that way because you feel like you're always disappointing people or you're disappointing yourself or like, you know what, today I said I was going to do this and I didn't. Scold yourself and then move on. Don't dwell on it because it's nasty, dirty. The next thing, Mary, is that we think that it's too late. Like, for example, old people are like... I can't use the internet. Not all old people say this. The ones that do, though. I'm blah, blah, blah. I can't use the internet.
You need to, somehow make a cartoon out of your old voice.
For real, though. we shouldn't be making excuses. Anyways, I got off topic. So we really have a list of people who had success later in life. I don't know if you know any of these people. Vera Wang didn't start designing clothes until she was 40. Henry Ford was 45 when he created the Model T. Momofuku Ando made ramen noodles.
It's time out. Ramen noodles. And if y'all want to have an argument about that, we can. For those of you that say ramen, I need to know. Ramen. I need to know who of our listeners, what camp are y'all in? Is it ramen or ramen?
It's ramen.
Is it RAYMEN or RAMEN?
Well, we know how to spell it. Ray is raw.
RAYMEN is ramen. Ramen is RAMEN. Anyways, okay, we need to know what camp you're in, ramen or ramen.
Ramen noodles. Dude was 48. Julia Child, the famous cook, she wrote her first cookbook when she was 50. Grandma Moses. Okay. She began her painting career at 78. And when, like one of her paintings sold for like $1 million. The dude from McDonald's, he didn't even turn into a success until he was 52. And there's some other ones too. There's a lot of them out there. A ton.
I found this guy. I don't even know who the hell he is, but his name's Harry Bernstein. And I guess he was a writer. And he didn't actually even achieve any level of like public notoriety until he was 96. That was in 2007. I guess he wrote a memoir, The Invisible Wall, a love story that broke barriers. And I don't know who this person is, but when I was looking at like people that had success later in life, I was like, who's the oldest person I can find? Because the point is, it really is never too late. A lot of our audience too, for those of you that are even younger, it's really never too late. I had to tell myself this. I'm 32, started a business when I was 30. And for some reason, when I was having my own issues in my own gap, right? I'm still in the gap, still working towards a certain level of success I haven't reached. When I was in that beginning phase, I somehow was like, God, I'm 30. I should be doing these things. We put these like age limitations on ourselves, and it's really not fair. But then I had to say, like, wait a minute. Assuming I retire at like around when everybody else does, 60, although I like working on my passion, so I don't know. I may do that till I'm 96, like Harry Bernstein did. But that's a long time. Tony mentioned this in the first episode. People overestimate what they can do in one year and underestimate what they can do in 10. And that fits so squarely in with what we are talking about, because, the point is not to give up. It's that consistency. It's that, what are the things that I got to do day in and day out to move forward, right? If you make little progress every day, it doesn't have to be major progress, but if you make little progress every day, that's a lot. I mean, over time, that's going to compound and you're going to see huge results. That's just how it is. But the point is like that gap. We know there's a lot of challenges there. So it's just staying after it. So it's not too late. I've had conversations with people in their like mid 30s, and they might have a couple kids, and they're just like, well, how am I ever going to, like, I have had to sacrifice my dreams. It's like, really? Really? Do you really? I don't know, because some people's dreams might be something to where it doesn't maybe fit in with raising kids or being in the state that you live in, whatever the case may be. But is there something else that lights a spark inside of you that you could go after? What is that? Like, it's worth finding. It is never too late. Like I said, we all still have dreams. It's whether or not we're going to go after them. So even people that think it's too late, they still have dreams. They have things they think about. And then when they think about it's too late to start, it's not too late. So I think, Ashley, you have anything else to add about never being too late? Yep. After I just rambled for 5 minutes.
When we're stuck in the gap, we think we're stuck between the start of our journey and the end, where we feel like we can be happy finally, there's that in-between stewing time that we've been talking about. And when people think about that gap, they have this emphasis on getting more money. I need more money, need more money. And then money becomes the motivation. And if the motivation is all about the money, it's going to be a losing battle, because all you're thinking about is, I need more, I need more. You're just going to keep needing more money. It actually takes us away from the purpose. And I know if you could do something and not get paid for it, you got to have a passion to do that, and then the money will come. There's a weak association between money and that satisfaction or more motivation. Work for success, not money. If you work for success, the money will chase you down. Dick Lower, Loehr. We like to give credit to people. I don't steal anyone's shit.
Yeah, I see people in that challenge often where they lose sight of what they started doing something for. Notice that when we tell you, when we've like recommended and we've talked about how you create a vision, we've never talked about money in that way. Like, how much money do you want? Because that's not a real motivation. It's like, that's going to follow if you're giving value to people in whatever it is that you do. If you're providing value and you're putting that at the forefront, at the center, then money is going to come out. Money's going to follow also. That's why we say money doesn't lead, it follows. So if you're leading with money in your mindset and you're in that gap and you're just like, man, I really want what I want out of my life now because I want this money. Money provides opportunity. And we're not saying money is bad. It provides opportunity. But if that's your focus, the being without, we talked about money mindset, that being without, that lack, that is going to cause a lot of anxiety, a lot of challenges. So just always remember to bring yourself back to what your purpose is. That's why we write a vision. That's why we all write a vision, and we ask you guys to look at that vision every day, because that's going to be that reminder to you of what you're doing it for, what those motivations are. So I think that's a good ending point for us to leave you guys with some action item. So we got a couple action items for you guys to leave with. The first is just, we talked about consistency, making daily progress. You know, there's not really a timetable on when success is going to happen for any of us. And who even thinks that success is going to happen one way or like one specific way? Your path might take you down a new street that you didn't know you were going to be walking down. So it's just about committing to making that daily progress of improvement in whatever you're doing. Embrace failure. Okay, you're going to mess up. Something's not going to work out. Nobody's going to like your status, or not as many people. For some people, it's yeah. But it's just, again, when you're consistent and you accept the fact that, hey, I'm going to as long as I get out here and I start taking action, I understand that I'm going to mess up. I understand that it's not going to be perfect. You gotta be willing to keep trying, right? And that brings to the next action. Explore, test, try new things. Don't just say, I got to do it this way and this way only. You got to find out what works for you. We talk about productivity. I've been working on like really mastering productivity for about 2 years now. I experiment with all kinds of theories. I switch up my morning. I mean, I've tried and tested all types of things because we're all different and no one way is going to be perfect for everybody. We all have our own way. So find your way, get out there and have fun and find your way. This is one of my faves. Go get a mentor. I think Gary Vaynerchuk is the only human being that has any level of success that has proclaimed that he's never had a mentor. He's the only one. Every other person out there that has success will tell you that they've had a mentor. If you see somebody out there playing at a level that you want to play at, reach out to them. Be willing to invest in yourself, invest in that relationship, get a mentor, because somebody out there has gone a similar path as you, and they may be able to give you insights and advice on how to navigate the struggles that you're having, how to get there faster, how to do something better. Go get a mentor.
Know that you're enough. I just feel like so serene when we talk about that. Because, man, I know everyone has felt like that before. And it's so important to just know that you're enough. I don't know what else to even say about it. Another one is practice gratitude. I love the exercise of having a gratitude rock. They talked about this on The Secret. You can put the rock in your pocket, your bra, wherever you're going to be able to have quick access to it. And throughout the day, if you're feeling some type of way, reach in your pocket or wherever and just touch the gratitude rock and say something you're grateful for. There's a great story on The Secret about it if you guys kind of want to know where that came from. Lead with the value, not the money. We just talked about that. Try not to focus so much on getting to that final end money destination. Don't make that your pure focus. It should be about more than that. It should be about your passion. Enjoy the journey. Too many times we worry about now and then the far end game. That's what this whole episode is about, is enjoying the training. It's like mountain climbing. The final destination is the summit. And when you're, on, base camp, or you have that gap in between, and it's grueling, it's hard, and it's also fun. Those climbers, they go through so much. They enjoy themselves, and then they have all those other feelings and experiences that I just named. But when they get to that summit, it's like a whole new journey. And then, of course, they have to descend, which is pretty serious stuff. And so the new goal would be getting back down. But I think of it like that. That's a way that I really see it in a value. Like, I can touch that. Like, when I'm feeling like the victim, or when I'm feeling like, man, this sucks, I'm going to picture that, because I can really grab onto that.
All right. So just a short little recap for what those are. Make daily progress. Embrace your failure. Explore, test, and try new things. Go get a mentor. Know that you're enough. Don't forget to practice gratitude. Lead with value, not money. And last but not least, enjoy the journey. So that is about time for us to sign off. We love y'all. And